Boo Boo, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, man. I just came
Lovely.
from a workout, so
Yeah,
feeling good. There's no better way to start off a Saturday than in the morning, hit gym, and then like the rest of your day just becomes easier.
that's so crazy you say that because Virgin Active just called me now. Literally, I saw an 021 number from. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely Virgin Active. You know what I mean? Upon doing research on you, you have quite an interesting story. So I saw you studied law at
Yeah.
UP.
Yep.
Well, most people are, studying, S versus Magwanyana, Dolus Eventualis, applying for articles and everything, becoming job seekers.
Mm.
You decide to take the trajectory of becoming a job provider.
Mm.
Why that route?
It annoyed my parents to no end. They were like, "We paid for you to go to school. We paid for you to go to a top university, and now you don't want to go get a job." Yeah,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it annoyed them to no end. It kind of meant it was, I think, twofold, right? I've always had this ambition that I really want to help people. That's
Yeah, yeah.
always like what I've loved doing. And
Mm-mm.
when I got into university, and I started learning about, law and all that stuff, I thought that law would be a vehicle that would allow me to be able to actually help people,
Okay.
but it wasn't going to allow me to help people in the way that I wanted to help people. I looked at the world and I was like, there's seriously some problems going on here, and I want to play a role in solving those and helping them. And, I remember we were sitting in this one class and we were learning about wills. And I was like, nah, this is not going to get me to where I want
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
to. This
yeah.
is not going to
Mm-mm.
enable me to like reach my ambition, my goal, my passion, my purpose in life. And I kind of stumbled upon entrepreneurship, right? So growing up, I'd always thought as entrepreneurs as people that sell goods. And I was like, it's nice, guys. Sell,
Yeah.
sell your
Street
goods.
vendors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I
yeah,
always envisioned entrepreneurs. But I'll
yeah.
never forget. I was listening to a podcast. It was Tim Ferriss, and he had Peter Diamandis on, the founder of it's just the X Prize and just a bunch of like really really awesome things. And he said this line, and he was like, "If you want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people." And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then through that podcast, he was talking about how entrepreneurs or founders, he called them founders, like, what is a founder? It's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
were the ones that are actually had the capability and the capacity to actually solve the world's problems. And I was like, damn, that's what I want to do. I want to help to solve the world's problems. And I kind of like then was like, okay, cool, what's wrong? What is going on in the world? What's going on? And specifically honing in South Africa. And I was like, damn, people aren't getting jobs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True.
We need to do something about this. And at the time, I was crafting my life vision of,
At how old?
I was like 21.
21, you're crafting your life vision.
Yeah.
So then you was this because of like pressure at home or you like from difficult circumstances?
No, so
Okay.
actually, as you can hear, my twang,
Yeah.
it's twanging.
Boys school. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm a product of privilege.
Oh, okay, I see.
My parents were fortunate enough to be really awarded like really incredible opportunities. My dad was an entrepreneur,
Oh, okay.
and he was able to do quite well. And through that, he was able to send us to all the private schools. I had a very good upbringing. But my parents were one of the only two people in their families that actually went to like tertiary education. And although I was like, oh yeah, I grew up in a nice house, I went to a nice school, it wasn't very difficult for me to see what South Africa really is. Go visit my grandparents. You go to the township, go visit family. You see
The disparity.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I've always been very cognizant of the fact that I come from a place of privilege. And when you come from a place of privilege, in my personal opinion, there's an onus on you to actually be able to use your privilege to help other people. And so the pressure was, genuinely speaking, was from the inside. There was no one, my parents were like, you need to help people. I was just like, no, I want to do this. So there I was, 21 years old at varsity, second year or third year law student. And I was like, no, I want to do something completely different. I want to go and help people. I want to make sure that people have a better life, because I couldn't figure out for the life of me, why is it that me as Boo Boo have been given and afforded all of these privileges, but then another person hasn't, by the virtue of like where I was born and who my parents are. How do we find a way to level the playing field? And part of leveling that playing field is giving people opportunities.
100%.
And that's how I kind of stumbled upon this world of, hey, let me help people get jobs. Because getting a job is not just like, okay, cool, great, I've got a job. Oh, that's nice. A lot of the time when people get a job, they may be the first generation of a person who's getting like a desktop, job. And so that enables them to actually live a good life. And more often than not, these people go give back to their family.
Yeah.
They can take another person through school. They can take other like relative family members and assist where they can. And then that's how we actually start leveling the playing field by giving people access to job opportunities. And like, look, I could be wrong, but my hypothesis is that the more people that we enable to get gainful employment, that will allow for them to change their lives, which in turn allows them to change their families' lives, which in turn allows
sort of like
to
a
change.
domino effect, basically.
Yes.
100%, 100%.
And so that's why I was like, yeah, this is the thing I need to do. And that was like the second reason. I was like, yeah, let's figure out a way to do this. Let's help people.
So what I'm understanding from what you're saying is it came from a place of empathy.
Definitely. Came from a place of empathy. And also just like, I love my country, bro. Like this, yes, we are. Oh man, geez, there's so much going on. There's so much. Sometimes it's just heartening to see everything that's going on. But this belief that we have the capability to really do incredible things. Like the one thing I'll say about South Africans is our capability to just be tenacious and to just keep on going. Like, there's no way that the people in our country should be as jovial as we are, should be continuing to strive as we are. When you look at everything, things are just like, in some instances are dire, but South Africans just have like this innate thing to like want to be more. And so I'm like, yeah, let's enable South Africans to be more. Let's find a way to help young people to really change their lives.
In helping young people change their lives, why do you think so many young people struggle to find a job even when they do have a degree? And one crazy thing, actually, what happens in my class, our lecturers, like I go to Wits, right? So there's always like this constant comparison between like, Wits and UNISA. And our lecturer always says like, we're going to give you hard questions. This is not UNISA, which sort of like, downplays like the value of a UNISA degree. Do you think maybe the kind of like tertiary someone goes to is the reason why, some young adults are unable to get jobs even when they do have a degree?
It's a loaded question. So we do work with a number of universities. So we've got like 25 university partners across the country. Wits is one of our partners. We've got UNISA as well. And what's really interesting, so when we speak to employers, right, they sometimes come to us, and I'll never forget this, specifically this one company. They were like, we only want UCT candidates.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do you want UCT candidates? And it's because this belief that UCT is like, better than everyone else. Yes, UCT has incredible resources. I know UP, Wits, all these guys, incredible resources, but you'd be so surprised as to how incredible other people are from other universities. And if we keep on allowing people to just say, I'm only going to hire from UCT, we're perpetuating this cycle of only the privileged getting access to all these things. And I think South Africa is not like the States, in the States, there's the Ivy League. We've got our own little Ivy League thing here, but you will find truly incredible and young individuals from like very different universities. Mangosuthu University of Technology, one of our partners. We've placed some really, truly incredible young people from there. And going on even further, we had a really incredible young lady working in our dev team. And she didn't go to a formal university. She did an online course in coding and development. And she was a rock star, an absolute rock star. And I think as South Africans, we really do need to get out of the mindset that you can only find gems in the big universities. I really think we need to get out of that realm. Like, South Africa is not America. We've got our top universities, but if you just give people an opportunity and a chance, they'll show you that I can actually work hard. And you kind of have to give them a little bit more leeway because of the fact that, yeah, they don't come from this massive university that has endless resources that's going to help them be better than everyone else. But if you don't give those young people a chance, they're never going to be able to actually show you that, yes, I can do this. And I think the reason why so many young people are finding, especially like graduating and they're sitting at home, I think the thing is twofold, right? The first part of it is that, unfortunately, universities really struggle to equip people with work-ready skills. So you can sit in a classroom. What are you studying?
I study law.
You study, hey.
I study law, yeah.
Yeah, you see us law boys.
Yeah.
You can equip these young people with all the theoretical knowledge in the world.
100%, yeah.
But they lack the capability to actually sit in a meeting room. They've never done that. They've never sat in a meeting room, never had to deal with a client. They've never had to actually figure out, how do I solve this really, really ambiguous problem that doesn't have a textbook answer? How do I make sure that there's this time management, there's expectation management, how do you deal with a client, how do you do all these things? And unfortunately, universities just don't equip people with that. And so if I'm an employer and I am looking at a candidate who has 2 years experience and a candidate who has no experience, I'm not actually, like, this was the thing that we figured out. Employers actually, like, what is experience, right? What is that work experience? It's not that that person can generate something quicker than that person in terms of like, oh no, that person's better at Excel or whatever. It's that soft skills thing. It's like, do I have the trust and belief that that person is going to be able to actually go to a client and speak to a client? Like, that person with 2 years worth of work experience has probably spoken to a number of clients. And then that person who's fresh out of varsity, more often than not, has not actually spoken to a client in their life, other than maybe a lecturer. And so people are just gravitating towards hiring these young people who have work experience versus hiring someone with no work experience.
In saying that, do you not think it's disingenuous to maybe, like, for instance, like when I go looking for job opportunities on LinkedIn, the first thing I do is, like, I go to that entry level, tab. And, I read through the description, I meet everything, and then the last thing that they say is like 3 to 5 years experience. It's like, you said you were entry level. Do you not think that's a bit disingenuous? Why do you think companies are more focused on, finding people with experience than, actually training fresh talent?
They're not willing to do it. They're not willing to do it. They're like, someone else must go train them, not me, not my company. And it's so sad because you'll see roles and it'll say internship. It will literally say graduate internship, and you read the requirements, 1 to 2 years experience.
Yeah, it's
where
just
am I
like,
supposed to get
what
that
am I
experience?
supposed to do?
That is like the big, huge problem is, you want me to have work experience so that I can get your entry level job. Where am I supposed to get the work experience to get this entry level job?
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily disingenuous per se. I hear what you're saying. It's just unfortunately what the market is right now here in South Africa. Like, unfortunately, it's twofold. I keep on saying it's twofold, but then I never get to the second one. That's my fault. Don't worry. Okay. I think a part of the reason, right, is that a lot of these companies, they're not willing to train the person because they're like, I'm going to have to hire this person. I'm going to have to skill them up. And only maybe after 6 to 12 months, then I'm like, okay, cool, you can fly and rock on your own. They're like, am I really willing to do that? Or do I want someone who's going to get in, they already know how to do everything, they're going to like just start immediately? But because it's a buyer's market here in South Africa right now with our unemployment rate, you will find people with 3 to 5 years worth of work experience applying for that entry level role. So you come in as a student, you're like, okay, cool, I'm entry level. There's someone who's been working for 6 years, but they're so desperate and there's so much of a lack of jobs. They will apply for that role. One of our clients came to us and they were like, cool, find us a marketing intern. Sharp, that's our bread and butter, right? We went in, we found a marketing, like we built a short list of like 10 really, really young, incredible people. And then the client says, look, sorry, I found someone else in my network. The person had 4 years experience. But that person with 4 years experience applied for an entry-level role.
Position,
and literally the salary was an entry-level position. But because they were so desperate that they applied for that role. And it kind of then just kills the market, because now we've got these young people who are like, hey, give me this entry-level role, but guys with like so much experience are coming into those entry-level roles. And so it kind of like, it distorts everything that is there. And the second reason why I think a lot of these companies are kind of like hesitant to hire these young grads versus hiring someone who's got work experience before, and it's the labor laws of this country. Now, I am not a proponent of we need to lessen the labor laws and make it like easy to fire people. We are not America. We are not the West, and I don't think we should ever go towards that region. There is a reason why our labor laws are the way that they are. You know, it's the legacy of apartheid, you know, and so we wanted to build a very progressive
society.
Where we actually protect workers. That is what we want to do. We want to protect workers. Now, unfortunately, that means that people are so hesitant to hire, because they know that if you hire someone and you get that hire wrong, you're stuck with that person. Letting someone go is very, very difficult. And so why would I want to gamble?
When you have more of a guarantee with someone who's experienced. So in that, like, how do I compete then? Like, because I'm finishing this year, how do I compete with someone who's applying to the same role but like has more experience than I do? Is there maybe something that universities can do in giving, like, you know, practical work experience as a part of, like, you know, their modules? Is that something that you'd maybe recommend?
So what you're doing right now, talking with me, working with THOOTO, you are actually gaining work experience. So
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good. All right.
Because like work experience, again, like going back to what I said earlier, when we started Jobox and we were trying to figure out why these young people aren't hiring, we did everything we could. We called universities, we called recruiters, we called business owners, and they were all like, yeah, they don't have work experience. And we're like, what is work experience? And work experience, after, you know, you ask someone a question, then you ask someone a question, like trying to get down to the actual principle of what it is. Work experience was like soft skills. And, you know, soft skills are those like intangible things that you can't touch, but it's really difficult to learn from a textbook. I can read about what it means to be a good leader.
But being a good leader is something different practically.
Yes. You only learn how to be a good leader once you're put into a position which forces you and allows you to learn how to lead.
And test the strength of your character.
And you get continuous feedback from that. And so that's the thing that we were like, oh, that's what you guys want. You guys want soft skills. And it's like, yeah, the 21st century skills, World Economic Forum says they're like important, but they really are. And so what we're trying to do, even with our mission at Jobox, and what we're trying to get universities to like start really thinking about, is how do we actually enable people to get work experience opportunities whilst they're still studying. And I'll never forget, we were hosting this one workshop, and it was actually a workshop with UNISA. And I think we were doing CV writing or something. We host so many different kinds of workshops. And and then obviously it was a Q&A at the end. And part of my CV writing thing, I tell people, make sure that you list your work experience. But work experience is not just, I worked in this specific thing. It's like, if you were a part of res leadership, if you were a part of some society leadership, if you were a team captain while you played in a team, that's actually like, I remember this one person said, like, yeah, I coach at a high school. Is that work experience? I'm like, yeah, that's work experience. You're actually learning soft skills. And this one lady asked me, and she was like, I've been working as a domestic worker while I'm trying to like get my degree from UNISA. And she was like, should I list that in my CV? I was like, yes, list that as part of your CV. Because to me, the fact that you're a domestic worker and you're also studying, I know that you're a hard worker.
Time management skills.
Time management and all these things. And that's what soft skills, are. So universities really need to start figuring out a way to get more young people doing that. Now, there are some higher education institutions that have a focus on this, right? So there's a thing called like work integrated learning. And what work integrated learning essentially is, most of the time it says, if you are studying towards this diploma, certificate, or degree or whatever, if you don't actually go get actual work experience in the field, we will not give you your diploma, your certificate, or your degree.
Oh, okay, I see.
So there are some higher education institutions where like this is a non-negotiable. Guys like TUT, like so many degrees of TUT, or so many diplomas of TUT, you cannot get your diploma if you haven't done work integrated learning. The TVET colleges, they have a big component of this as well. The universities,
Yeah.
they tend to not have this. They'll have like, I know for engineering, they'll have like, you have to do like maybe,
Back work.
like a
Yeah.
6 weeks thing. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not enough. There needs to be more. But also, we can't just blame the universities and say, hey, universities, you need to do more. South Africans fundamentally need to go through a paradigm shift mentally around what does it mean to be a student and what does it mean to be a job seeker. There are far too many students who only in their third year, they go learn that their university has what it's called. Sometimes they call it a graduate career office. Sometimes it's a career office.
Yeah,
They only
true.
they're in third year, then November, they're about to graduate, then they go, then they're like, help me find a job.
I can actually relate to that because in my experience, you know, I came to university primarily for the experience. I didn't know what I wanted to do, you know. I was into content creation and everything like that. But then, you know, as you get older, you realize that, you know, I can't be in Bram forever. You know, it's just like
It would be
actually,
nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but it's just like, you know, I actually have to become someone. And I think that kind of like you said you started Jobox at 21, right?
Yeah. We started we were from like, we were, myself and my co-founders, it's 10 years of us knowing each other this year, which is crazy. But we were like, okay, cool, we can't just be students. So we founded the University of Pretoria Consulting Society. And that society still exists today. Like that, we founded that. We were like, hey, let's do something.
Yeah.
So let's found the society. And then after that, we were like, okay, cool, let's do Jobox. So we've been like, we can't just be students. You can, and this is what I always say. Like I used to give her the workshops, and then we hired someone, Saneli Siwe. Her workshops are so much better than mine. I was like, I'm fired. But when I used to give the workshops to all these students, I used to say to them, guys, remember, priority number one, get your degree.
100%.
But you cannot just be a student. You need to be more than just a student. And like, not everyone has that realization that you have. Like, guys, I can't just be in Bram forever. That's why I mean, like, we have to go through a paradigm shift. This notion in South Africa that education is the be all and the end all. Oh, humble your phones, go learn, go, and like, that's what's really important.
That's what's pushed into you.
Go learn, go to university, go to all this. Oh, you didn't get into a good university. It's like, guys, going to university is not a guarantee of a job anymore. That time is over.
100%.
We need to ensure that young people and their families and just the country as a whole, we need to come to a realization that going to university is not the be all and the end all. That doesn't guarantee you a job anymore.
It's just step one.
It's step one. Unless you're studying something like XI or something, but I mean, those guys don't pass. But like, unless you're studying something which is like highly specialized, more often than not a lot of people go into these highly specialized fields. And we need to realize that it's not just about getting a degree. It's not about just getting a diploma. It's not about just getting a certificate. It's about, okay, you are in a higher education space, but you need to hustle. From first year, you need to be hustling to get some sort of work experience. And there's so many different ways to do that in these structures. You don't have to go and get a formal job at THOOTO or at Jobox or whatever. You can actually go to your university or your higher education institution and say, hey, look, I want to do something. Do you guys have any any part-time work that I can do? Go be a tutor. Go do something to enable you to just have that work experience underneath your belt. And what I always say to people is, you never know who you might meet while you're doing this work experience thing.
100%.
That person that you're working for may not be your potential future employer, but you could meet someone that could be your potential future employer.
So basically building a network is what you're saying.
Start building your network as soon as you possibly can. Don't forget to go to class. Don't forget to study because you need it. But expand your network as soon as you can. And it's really cool that some like institutions, like I said, are just like really pushing it forward and saying, hey, let's go do this thing. Let's make sure that you go there. But it's also why, controversially, as we work with universities, but controversially, I think that not everyone should be going to a university.
What do you think they should be doing instead?
There's
not going to university.
There's so many other avenues that are available now in this country that would enable you to actually go get like a proper skill that you can like use. So TVET colleges, we look down on TVET colleges. There's a stigma.
Yeah, there's a stigma
There's a
associated with it.
massive
It's like,
stigma.
you know, you pass matric with 30s, go there.
Go there,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
And we tell them go there, and then we go tell them, oh, go learn office admin. You know, and it's like, if I'm like, think about it, if I'm an employer, right, and there are two candidates, and like, let's go back to the stigma. There's a student from, let's pick on another, University of Western Cape. Someone there who's learned BCom administration. It's a bachelor's degree in admin. Versus someone who's got a certificate in office admin. Who am I going to want to hire? My stigma says I'm going to want to go hire that person from University of Western Cape. And so we're telling people, number one, go to a TVET college. Number two, we're telling them, go into office admin. And so we're just setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
Because we want them to go to a TVET, we want them to go to higher education. But there's like really incredible things that you can do around learnerships. There's so many great learnership programs which teach you how to code. I have a beef with making everyone coders, but that's a story for another day. But there's so many other really incredible skills you can learn that it's not a formal TVET, it's not a university, it's not a, they used to call them technicons, but it is a way for you to actually gain a certificate. And a lot of the time, you know what's cool about these learnerships? They force you to have work experience.
Yeah.
You cannot get your certificate without you having gone to your, like, finish your work experience thing. Now, we do have a problem in the learnership space where it's like people are going there, but unfortunately, not a lot of people are graduating. The drop-off rate is insane. It's insanely high. And so we as a society have to figure out, how do we make this whole thing function better? Because if we can get that learnership thing right, then we can get also TVET colleges right. And TVET colleges could be one of the most important things that this country could do to get right. If you look at Germany, look at Japan, right? Two incredible countries, right? Germany is literally keeping Europe alive, and Japan grew so much in the 80s. They have basically not grown since then, but they're still like one of the top economies in the world, right?
I saw you went to Japan.
Favorite
Most
country.
people would want to go to Silicon Valley,
Go to
New
Japan,
York.
guys.
You're like, Japan.
Japan, that's my place.
Yeah.
Those two countries have a ridiculously high vocational college pass rate. And those people that go to those vocational colleges, they actually have incredible livelihoods. They have meaningful lives. And so if they've got it right, let's look at how they're modeling their things. Let's come back here. Let's try and replicate it here. We're trying to send too many people to university. We're trying to send too many people to go learn how to be coders and developers and all that stuff. And like, look, yes, 4IR. Yes, we need those people. But if we could just find a way to like enable people to have better outcomes when they go to these alternative routes of trying to get employment, and really supporting those. And as a country, not looking down on those people. Like we always fight with employers when it comes to hiring developers. I genuinely think I've seen some of the best devs who are either self-taught or they've gone through some sort of like boot camp or academy, because you actually learn
more practical experience as opposed to like filler courses. Like I was looking at some like BCom information system program because I wanted to switch to that. And I was like, okay, I get this is about like coding, but why am I learning accounting? You know what I mean? And let's just say, you know, your ideal situation works out right. Like, you know, the outcome is that people are more qualified and they're more skilled. What about saturation? What if we're putting too many people out of like, you know, university and TVET colleges that the job market isn't ready to absorb? Is that not our current situation? And if so, like, how do we evade that?
No, 100%. So that is actually a really interesting way to pose this question, because that's a question that's asked as like people ask us at Jobox all the time. I remember like whenever we try to raise funding, people are always like, so you guys say you help people get jobs? And we're like, yes, that's what we do. And then they're like, okay, so is the problem that people finding work, it's inefficient, or it's anything, or is there like a deeper problem? And we're like, number one, it definitely isn't efficient. The sheer amount of times I see on LinkedIn or anywhere, or I see WhatsApp stories, bane of my existence, send CV to email at what I'm like, guys, imagine getting 1,000 CVs in your inbox. How are you going to filter through all those
does that
things?
happen to you?
In the beginning, we had to learn how everything is actually done.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, cool, let's get people to send CVs. Worst thing ever. Then you have to you open up an email, download, and then you go and you put the stuff on an Excel spreadsheet, and then you just yeah. But people still do it, and it's highly inefficient, and it definitely does. People see hiring as a chore, as a pain, and it's because you're getting people
as opposed to like an investment.
Yeah, but it's yeah. So definitely things are more inefficient, inefficient as ever. Now that's the first reason, and yes, as Jobox we solve that and whatnot. But your question around market saturation, job market unable to absorb people.
Yeah.
Guys, there is so much money in South Africa.
You think so? I mean, you would know so.
There is so much money in South Africa. Okay, look at it like this. Okay. So I'm going to meander a little bit, but there's a point here.
Okay.
So we're busy with this other application, and obviously we need to prove that this is a problem. The way whenever you go and pitch to investors, they're like, "This is really a problem." I'm like, yeah, it's a problem. So, unfortunately, what is happening in the country right now is that our unemployment rate is going up. I was looking at this Stats SA thing. In the year 2014, Q2, Stats SA released, the numbers and whatnot, and unemployment was at 34.4% in 2014 Q2. 2024 Q2. Youth unemployment is 34.4. 2024 Q2, youth unemployment was at 46.6.
Why do you think that is?
But,
yeah,
although that's the case, every single year there's billions going into upskilling people, whether it be through these corporate learnership, triple BE things, whether it be money going to universities and all this stuff. There's billions going into this. And there's so many of these programs. There's the Youth Employment Service. There's CETA. There's so much money going into the CETAs. There's all this money that's being pumped into this space. Yet our youth unemployment is going up. What's going on? That's what we're trying to figure out at Jobox. We're trying to figure out what is going on. And the way we're trying to do that is we're trying to make sure that good data is being collected around what programs are people going on, what kind of jobs do they get once they go through this program, and where are they in 5 years? We've got far too many programs that are shoving people into these pointless training, pointless learnerships. Learnerships are so key, but if you're going to be teaching people how to do end user computing, which is teaching people how to use a floppy disk. Now for the Gen X's, they're like, what is
those things were from 2007.
Or even before then.
Yeah.
A floppy disk is I'm aging myself, but a floppy disk is this. No one uses floppy disks anymore, but there are still people doing end user computing, being taught how to turn on a computer. But because companies are getting the triple BE points, they couldn't care less about what's going on. And so I believe within the core of my being, it's not a case of the job market cannot absorb people. It's that we are just making people do this is a phrase. It's an economic phrase. It's called a bullshit job. We're making people just do pointless things. And so I think if we can properly allocate those resources that are being pumped into the space, into this industry of training people, and all these things, the Jobs Fund. The Jobs Fund exists, and billions are going in there as well.
Yeah.
But we're still facing this youth unemployment rate, right? I think that there are, unfortunately, some unscrupulous people that are playing in this space that are just here to make sure a box is ticked and that they're collecting their money.
And then they move on.
And then they move on. They don't care that some young person has been on their fifth learnership.
Yeah.
And, that person finishes the learnership with no real tangible skill. They've got now that year of work experience. They're going to try to apply for a job that requires that work experience, but on their CV there's nothing. And then let's say magically they actually get an interview.
Yeah.
When the person interviews them, because the thing that they've been doing has been pointless, you're you don't have any soft skills. You don't have any. I'm meeting with you, but you suck at your communication. I don't get the sense that you know how to do teamwork and all this stuff. So we are shoving money into the space. And we are not enabling people to actually leave with proper work experience that allows them. Yes.
Yeah.
Because, and then also it's a lot of these big corporates will do like a big thing. Oh, we've hired 1,000 young people this year for this 12-month thing. The 12-month finishes, and I remember speaking to someone who works for a very big company, and they work in the space, and he was like, our biggest problem is that we are taking tons of people through these programs, and we've got suppliers, and we say to the suppliers, hey, look, here's a person who's gone through this program. Would you be keen to hire them? And they're like, sure, let me interview them. And then when they interview them, or they're making them do these psychometric assessments, I have the biggest beef with psychometric assessments. I think they're too Western, but whatever. They make them do these psychometric assessments, and then these people, unfortunately, are not passing. And he was trying to say...
Oh, sorry? What? Oh, wrap it up. Oh, okay,
Cool.
okay, yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, now we'll edit that out. Yeah.
No worries.
All right.
So I'm talking to this guy, and he works for this large corporate, right? And he's saying, we're taking tons of people through these programs, and we've got like all these suppliers, right? And when they try to take these young people that they've trained and they put them into these suppliers, the suppliers are like, we don't want to hire them, because like once we make them do the psychometric assessments, once they get into the interviews, they kind of bomb. And that's because, like, unfortunately, the work that they're doing there isn't enough. It's not allowing them to actually learn how to do that. And so we're training all these young people, taking them through these programs, and then once the 12 months is finished, I'm a corporate, I've got my points, I'm happy, I'm good, I'm glad. Now this young person goes back home, and now they can't get another job. So what do? They apply for another learnership. You got literally people are hopping from learnership to learnership to learnership. They've been like in learnership for the last 5 years. And they can't get full-time employment. And so we need to figure out which programs are not doing well. From a learnership perspective, we've got all these things, but like which ones are allowing people to actually get hired afterwards in a full-time employment? We've got all these universities, we've got all these higher education institutions that are giving people certificates, diplomas, and all these things, and degrees, but which degrees are the ones that are actually allowing people to gain proper work from which university? And it's not a case of like, we want to then go to these universities and be like, oh, you guys are doing so bad. It's like, no, guys, you guys are struggling. Here's a university that's really doing well. Like if two students are going to two different universities but studying the same degree, and the one person is able to get a job and they excel in that job in the future, right? We need to go to that other university and we need to say, hey, look, this is what's happening with this person. This is how they're excelling. And the thing that we're doing here at Jobox is we're collecting all of this data. It's not just about where did you go. It's like, where are you from? What's your background? What's your race? All these different things. And so we want to be able to compare University A and University B. These two people, same demographic background. This one ended up doing better than this one. What's going on? Let's go and help you to make sure that both these people have a successful outcome at the end of the day. So my belief is that the resources are not being allocated correctly. We need to figure out how to allocate our resources better as a country that's going to enable people to get employment. And like, look, my ego, my hubris is that Jobox is going to enable for that to happen with all the data that we're collecting to actually figure out how do we make the country better. I don't have all of the answers, and the data is going to be the data that we're collecting. And I'm not a data scientist. I'm not going to be able to be like, this is exactly what we need to do. But my whole thing is that we need to get this information. And that's the only way we're going to like help people. And so going back all the way to the beginning, that's why I started on this journey. I was like, there's something going wrong in the ecosystem when it comes to young people getting jobs. We have this whole thing as a country, like it's a ticking time bomb. It's not like anyone is like oblivious to this, but something needs to change.
100%.
Because whatever we're doing right now, it's not working.
Thank you so much for your insights. What you're doing is really admirable, and I hope you figure out the solutions that you're trying to get.
Thank you so much, man.
Wow.
I talk a lot, sorry.
No, I like that.